So allow me to set the stage for the next. We have a prominent guest, the EVP Dombrovskis, who is responsible for basically everything on the cut agenda. We are all talking about the regulatory burden. Okay. Thank you for the attention. And we all talk about Europe falling behind in the tech race and how we can get more speed. Well, I could not imagine anybody better to do this job than Commissioner Dombrovskis. This is about speed, it's about scale, it's about cutting the burden on companies. I gave you this old figure of 200 billion a yearly on burden of companies. This is a figure that is now 10 years old, and by now the number is much, much bigger. And with the upcoming regulation, it will be even bigger. So on top of the CRA, the NIS2, 6 EU cybersecurity laws have been written. And if an attack actually occurs, we need to have 5 different incident reports. It's very bad when you have an energy plant going down, that you are spending your time trying to write the right reports, even on a problem that you don't need to want to disclose yet, because you don't know what the problem is, and somebody might be luring your data, and if you are actually finding out the solution, they can find out before you. So, but apart from cybersecurity, we also believe that we should look at data regulation. Both the GDPR, definitions to be harmonized, but not least the Data Act and the AI Act. Well, we talk about, will there be uncertainty? There is always uncertainty. And right now, there are much worse uncertainties than having to look one more time if the regulation is actually working before it is rolled out. So let's not have any like holy spots that we will not look to. We need speed, we need to cut the burden, and we need to simplify. And right now, it's no time to say, no, we can't do that, and that is not doable. We need to stand together as private and public sector to make sure that we do cut the burden. And I think the 37 billion that the president came out with and saying, this is what we are going to cut in the next period, it might not be ambitious enough, to be honest. If the number of burden yearly might be 400 billion, 40 is only 10%. So maybe we need to put the number even higher. At least we need to know the how. But, you know, I've worked with you, Commissioner, in previous functions also, and I know that you're an efficient man. So let me welcome you on stage, and let's have a chat on how we can do this. Please, the floor is yours. So thank you so much for taking the time to come here. We heard at the start, everything has been about speed and scale. And of course, we're standing like in the midst of a period full of change. So where will be your focus? Where are you focusing now? Are there, you know, big chunks of regulations that you're looking at first, or what's the plan?
Good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, thank you for this invitation to Masters of Digital 2025. It's a pleasure to be here. Maybe let me start zooming out a bit before I go to your question, because if you look at current institutional cycle, from European Commission side, we have set 2 horizontal priorities, which are security and competitiveness. And I think it's very clear that those are issues which we will have to deal. Well, security, I think I don't need to explain right now the challenges and threats we are facing, and the need to respond quickly and boldly to those challenges and threats. And on competitiveness, there are also short-term issues which we are facing on negative implications, economic implications of Russia's aggression against Ukraine, but there are also a number of structural challenges we need to deal with. Our productivity growth is slower than in other major economies like US and China already for decades. A population aging, relatively high energy prices, skills mismatches, all this needs to be addressed and dealt with, and a reduction of administrative burden, simplification is fitting very much in this competitiveness agenda. So already we have outlined the European competitiveness compass, outlining how we are going to deal with all the competitiveness challenges and issues during these 5 years. And just last week we also came with a communication for faster and simpler Europe to outline how we are going to deal with the simplification and reduction of administrative burden, also setting out clear quantitative targets. So reduction of administrative burden by 25% for all companies and by 35% for SMEs. You already talked in your introductory remarks a bit about the baseline. The baseline we are using as per calculations of Eurostat is 150 billion euros of recurring annual costs, which is constituting administrative burden. There may be other estimates, and one has to see whether it means also a broader compliance burden or what's exactly there. So quantitatively, indeed. So what we want to achieve is reduction of administrative burden by 37.5 billion euros by the end of the mandate, and what we do for SMEs comes on top of this. Then in terms of concrete initiatives, this is also something which we had already outlined, and it's reflected now in European Commission's work program for 2025, what simplification proposals we are going to put forward, and we will start with a omnibus on sustainability reporting, so dealing with files like Corporate Sustainable Reporting Directive, Corporate Sustainable Due Diligence Directive, Taxonomy, and also Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. Also, we'll have an omnibus on investment facilitation, simplifying the work of programs like InvestEU and European Fund for Strategic Investment, and we'll be following up with other categories, and it's probably particularly relevant for this audience, also with a digital package focusing on cybersecurity and requirements surrounding this, but also looking broader. So what regulatory framework we have, how much it's fitting our companies, the needs and the limitations of our companies, especially SMEs. Therefore, I think that's a moment for you to watch and to engage in the run-up on preparation on this digital simplification package. But also, when we are talking horizontally about reduction of administrative burden, we are looking very much at digital tools, how we can use digital tools to simplify reporting, how we can reuse data so that we don't need to ask companies again and again to report in different forms, how we go away from paper-based reporting where it's still present. So also the digitalization of how we do the public administration and reporting will help to deal with those issues as well.
Great. So I hear that you don't limit yourself. You are talking about the sustainability things, cybersecurity, but also going towards a broader digital scope over time. So 2 more questions. How can industry help the best? And the other one, what will be the political challenges in this? Can we do it at a speed that we will actually have an effect during this commission?
By all means, that's certainly the aim. So first, how businesses can help? First, by providing precise input when we are discussing different pieces of legislation, what is working, what is not, where there are overlaps, where there are gaps, where there are inconsistencies. So basically helping us to identify the problems so that we can address them. And we are also setting up new forms of engagements, including implementation and simplification dialogues, which each member of European Commission will have to do with relevant stakeholders, but also reality checks, talking with practitioners on the ground which are implementing the rules. So one is this precise framework. Another is keeping this topic of simplification high on the political agenda, reminding the politicians in both member states and in European institutions that this is something which needs to be done, that it's important for European competitiveness, that we cannot continue with business as usual. Because that leads me slowly towards your second question, so what political difficulties we expect? Well, I would say there is a strong support from a business community to this simplification agenda. It's important that you continue this support. But there are also many concerns and pushback, so to say, from the left of the political spectrum, also from a range of NGOs. So this will require engagement also from that point of view. We are very clear in emphasizing that simplification is not deregulation, so we are not abolishing our policy goals or our high environmental or social standards. We are rather looking how we can reach our goals in a more simple and cost-efficient way.
Okay, great. So listen, speaking about industry, we have two excellent speakers here who'd like to share also on stage with us some of the examples. So be concrete, as you said. So let me welcome on stage Peter Wedecker, our Chief Digital Officer of Schneider Electric and also President of Digital Europe, and Julie Lind Teigland, EMEA Area Manager for EY, who will share also some of their. Should we give them a hand? So welcome on stage. I think this is exactly what we need, right? We need to bridge the knowledge for how this works in reality and how the political environment stakeholders they thought it would work, and then it hits grounds and it turns into something totally different. So thank you so much for being here with me today. So Peter, you have extensive experience in IoT, first in defense and now in green tech, right? So, how do you see the different directions? How can we change this? How can we optimize the environment for IoT and the code? Sorry, go ahead.
Maybe first, I want to make a reference, Commissioner Dombrovskis. I very much like what you're saying, so fully support that. We need this simplification, we need this burden reduction. And maybe talking from the daily practice, right? At Schneider Electric, and I take the area of sustainability. We have been very committed to sustainability for many years. For 2 decades, we have had our own sustainability program, because we are deeply convinced that we do not only need to have a transformation within Schneider to improve sustainability, but we also need to help all of our customers on that journey. This is also, with that almost 20-year history on this, of course, we feel we are quite advanced. That's also being recognized from the outside. We are pretty regularly awarded to be one of the most, or sometimes the most sustainable company in the world. We are very proud of this. So, so we want to continue that journey. Now, sustainability requires a certain level of reporting, but this reporting is required not for compliance reasons, but for the business transformation reasons. We need to measure somehow what we are doing, and we need to measure whether we are on the right track with what we are doing. And in order for this, we need to have the reasonable level of KPIs, smart KPIs that really allow us, not only us at Schneider, but all of you in your companies, to measure, are you on the right journey with your sustainability ambitions. So, but I fully support that we have probably gone too far, right? Particularly in the regulation. And you talked about taxonomy, you talked about CSRD, and certainly I support very clearly that we need to reduce the burden that has been created. Just one example from Schneider Electric, CSRD, we are required to report 100 quantitative KPIs and 1,000 qualitative KPIs. So if you ask me personally, that's probably a bit too much, right? that's more than I can look at usually, right? And really my ask, this is the right initiative, and I'm not sure if 25% are enough, right? On some topics, I think it's really reasonable to go back to what do we need to measure that helps us to really transform our companies and transform Europe, and what's only a compliance burden on top, right? And my advice would be, let's go to the level where we can still measure, are we transforming enough, and let's get rid of all the rest.
Thank you so much. I'll get back to you. You have been dealing, Julie, with sustainability, reporting, burden, measuring burden on companies. What are you seeing here? How is this development taking? Where is it taking Europe?
I think this is a great question, and Cecilia, you did a fantastic job. All of you that were perhaps not there last evening, where we celebrated some fantastic entrepreneurs. I have to say, one of the quotes that Cecilia knows I'm going to talk about this, that Pactum gave, he said, you know, the regulatory burden that Peter talked about is like running a marathon and having a rock put in the rucksack at each way. I can say that from the business side as well. It's not just from the entrepreneurs, it's from the business. And if I talk numbers, we all like numbers in this room, our FDI across Europe in the last months, and actually over the last 18 months, has decreased. It's been on a decreasing trend. Last year, again, 4% down. And some of you might be sitting there quite relaxed. I see some of you very calm and relaxed in their chairs. Do you realize that when foreign direct investment goes down, it has a direct impact on our GDP? It has a direct impact on the number of jobs. Now, that 4% has been equalized across Europe. When you look at Germany, as an example, that foreign direct investment is down double digit, and the impact on jobs exponentially higher. Foreign direct investment matters. So, Cecilia, we went out and we asked European CEOs, so tell us, why is this happening? Why are even you, as European companies, not investing in Europe? And they gave 3 answers. The first one is certainly not going to surprise you. It's the rucksack with the rocks on the regulatory burden. And I probably would have expected that, and I feel that there's action being taken on that now. The second one that not enough people, I think, talk about right now, and they call it out, and that is energy prices. How can it be that European energy, for example, in Germany or France, is near to 4 to 6 times that what it is across the pond in the US, and nearly 7 times that what it is in the Middle East? And I know all of you are also thinking, well, Julie, they have all those oil wells there in the Middle East. That's why. Yes, you are right. But across the US, does it have to be 6 to 7 times? Even looking at France, 4 to 5, it's resulting in a deindustrialization across Europe in our major economies. And that's something I think we need to find a way to address. That has very little to do with regulatory burden, but it's clearly absolutely there for us to look at. Those were a few things. I don't think there's a silver bullet on this, Cecilia. I think there's a few things that the EU, thankfully with your excellent leadership, is addressing on the simplification, on the regulatory burden. There's a few more things I think we need to do. I think we need to allow, I don't want to say mandate, we need to allow European champions to come up, to allow European companies to come together, to be merged, to acquire, to move, instead of just allowing other foreign governments to invest in our economies. I think we need to invest in our younger people with our skills agenda. And no, I'm not just referring to AI, I'm also referring to excellent skills that we need in the entrepreneurship space to drive those startups, Cecilia, that you're awarding. We need those skills to come from from within. And I know that there's excellent work being done also in this field, including the work with junior achievement. And maybe last but not least, and I try to emphasize this, I think this is something we need to collaborate on. It's not one or the other, but it's all of us working together for Europe to drive a better and stronger Europe. And I have to say, I have a feeling of enthusiasm, of optimism, not just because the glass is half full, but because people are actually adding more water to the glass every single day in terms of where we're going.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about now. We have this publication. It's Cut, Simplify, and Incentivize. And you can say you are the cut and simplification embodiment of the Commission. But let's talk a little bit about incentives, because I know you have been in multiple other functions. How do you see, Commissioner, how do you see that we can start incentivizing instead? Do you see some big programs that could really change the productivity? We all speak about defense, we speak about critical infrastructure. How do we get those scalable? Is it common tax incentives? Can we do that? Could we use tools that they use in the US?
Indeed, I would say we have a range of possibilities and incentives. Also, if you look at the EU level, so in the last years we have started indeed to stronger invest in strategic sectors, strategic technologies through initiatives like important projects of common European interest, through the STEP initiative. More is to be developed now in a context of Net Zero Industrial Act, which we are developing, and other elements, and also looking for the now upcoming multi-annual financial framework of European Union. So after 2027, the idea is that we'll be setting up EU competitiveness fund to help exactly companies to deal with these problems. Then we obviously need to remove barriers from the single market, allowing companies to scale up in Europe, because that's one of the difficulties, that all too often companies go to scale up in US, in Asia, but not in Europe. So we need to see what is fragmenting our single market and how to address this. Obviously, important part will be, if we talk about private funding, it's a capital markets union, or what we now call savings and investments union, because bulk of investment in any case will have to come from the private sector. The question is how we are facilitating it and how we are creating this what's called funding escalator, helping companies to finance themselves from startups to large companies. Tax incentives, tax credits also may play their roles there. US indeed is using this tool successfully. That's, I would say, also for EU member states to consider weighting the costs and benefits of this approach. And I would say that's something which works better in case of established companies, because for startups they are often not having profits, so therefore they are not paying corporate income tax. So this tax credit will not, or rather tax incentive will not really help them at that stage of development. But for more advanced or more stable companies, that's also the tool which is available.
Great, thank you. I'll return to you in a second. So just Peter, I mean, your company is like champion in energy optimization, right? So you always say, all the energy that we need to save energy, but the best energy is the one we don't use, right? So if we don't use it, we'll have cheaper cost of energy. And still we see no large scale, huge investments in bringing down energy consumption. What is holding us back, and what is it that you need? What would be like one magic touch that would say, okay, we're not going to look at how we get cheaper energy only, we're also going to see how we spend less?
So actually we see traction accelerating on both sides, on the supply side as well as on the demand side. So on the supply side, it's of course going to more renewables, building out a new energy system which has renewables, that has batteries as part of the mix, and of course the electric fleet will be the biggest battery in the future. So we clearly see acceleration there. We also see advancements on the demand side of the energy, that more and more companies are making investments to reduce the energy consumption and use the energy in a smarter way. Now, the question is, are these investments high enough? And is the return quick enough on these investments? So everybody who is making an investment on the demand side of energy management is asking the question, what's my return of that investment? And usually 3 years is kind of the breaking point of this equation. So if companies can get a return of their investment within 3 years, they are likely to make the investment. But of course, any investment is being balanced against other investment needs that companies have, right? So this energy demand side investment is clearly, how do I save long term on energy, and it needs to have a certain return of invest. Can we make that return of invest period shorter? If we can do this, either via technology or via certain incentives, we will see more investments.
Can you just be very concrete? What incentives? What would be an incentive that could be decided by governments across Europe that could make that decision happen?
I think the commissioner addressed the both angles, right? One is tax incentive. So if you make certain investments, you get a tax benefit. The other angle is a direct support with the investment, right? And depending on what kind of companies you are, whether you pay taxes or not, right? One or the other is favorable depending on what you are. But I think we need to use both mechanisms, right? We need to make it attractive. We need to create the rewards, right? And then it's more a technicality for me, whether that's a tax incentive or a direct investment support.
So, Julie, you are one of the most famous international advisors on this area. So, looking at the EU, what do we need to do more of? So, if you were like advising directly to the commissioner and to the president, what would you say? You guys need to do more of this. What would it be? What would be some of the tools that you think we need to use more?
You know what? I'm going to give a really boring answer, because I said before, I don't think there's a silver bullet. I think we need to change the dialogue. And Cecilia, I've said in several forums here and outside of this place, I think we need a state of urgency, maybe not a state of emergency, but a state of urgency together. And that means business coming to the table and speaking their mind and having the trust that policymakers are going to listen so that we really address the problems. I find that we are our own worst enemy. We divide ourselves up. We don't really speak the same language, and we certainly aren't on the same space in terms of disclosing what the real problem is and having faith that we're going to address it on both sides. And that's getting the balance right between protecting our citizens with regulation and allowing business to flourish with innovation. I think there's more dialogue needed. I think the commissioner is setting up dialogues. My encouragement is we need to find trust across both sides of the table to really meet and make that happen. And I think what you are doing, Cecilia, and I think she really does deserve a round of applause, events like this make that possible. I think there need to be more of this. That's my personal view. Great.
So I see there is a survey going on. So I guess the question is, how will we get speed and scale and make ourselves more competitive? And do you see the survey? In the minute, maybe we can show the survey before I go to the last. So here it looks like what is holding us back, what's the roadblock, fragmented market and inconsistent national policies is now leading. Too much regulation, not enough simplification, slow adoption of new technologies, and lack of investment in innovation. Let's see, let's run it, but I think we have a clear idea here that we simply have, there's lack of consistency, fragmented markets, and then too much or not enough simplification. So one last question, I want to hang on to that, on state of emergency, right? State of emergency. Let's not hope that we get there, let's hope that we manage to cut enough burden and get competitive and resilient before that. One last question to you. I know that you're a big believer in the digital euro. And can you tell us a little bit, what do you think the digital euro would really do for competitiveness and for Europe as such?
Indeed, when we talk about digitalization, one important question obviously is also how we digitalize our money, because currently the central bank money is cash, so coins and banknotes. And with the use of cash declining, the question, what is the role of central bank money in economy, how the transposition of monetary policy is happening. And in all of this, digital euro comes in, and it's also a possibility to provide a really pan-euro area European payment solution, because currently we don't have like pan-European payment solutions. The solutions which we have are either fragmented, or there are some international solutions like international card schemes, or some solutions by big techs and so on and so forth. So, and that's where this work on a digital euro is coming in, to bring also the central bank money in 21st century, and to ensure that it can continue to play its role in overall monetary system.
Okay, good. So you're saying, like, basically by having our own monetary system in a digital currency, we will also have the stability and not be over-dependent on other, fluctuations and etc.
Well, that is one of the arguments also to ensure Europe's strategic autonomy in this area, also not to be overwhelmed by certain private solutions like stable coins. If you remember, then what really gave the impulse to the current work stream on a digital euro were announcements by Facebook at that time of a so-called Libra project. It somehow has gradually disappeared or somewhere moved to the background, but that really raised a conversation. Do we want just some kind of stable coins taking over, or we rather accelerate our work on central bank digital currency? And I need to add one more point on this, that the digital euro in any case is there to complement cash, not to replace cash, because there are some conspiracy theories surrounding this, and that's why together with the digital euro legislative proposal, we in parallel came with a proposal on legal tender for cash, to be very clear about this.
And do you think that would that be one of the harmonizing factors? Maybe we can get like Denmark also to get the euro, and others who are not joined yet. Who knows?
Well, Denmark hasn't been, so you're welcome to join.
So, do you think that will be one of the factors that also will create a new boost in the economy, and harmonize some of the processes for industry?
Certainly, when we are talking also about developing those European payment solutions, also possibilities for innovation on financial services providers, we are also in dialogue with industry how to best do it. Also, we need to be mindful that the digital euro cannot end up with financial disintermediation and creating problems for financial stability or for banks' role in accrediting of economy. So similarly, like typically we are not having piles of cash home. There's also going to be certain holding limits to the digital euro, how much it can be there. But the potential also to harmonize and to strengthen our competitive position is there.
Thank you so much. Listen, I am 6 minutes over time, which I always do this in good company. Thank you so much for your time. We also have a roundtable after this to discuss exactly these things. You have definitely our commitment and the business community's commitment that we are going to help you to cut and to simplify. That is for sure. Thank you so much for coming here, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.